صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Islamic Center of Long Island's 19th Annual Black History Virtual Celebration. My name is Zainab Bey, and I'm going to be your host this afternoon. We'd like to begin the event with an opening Quran recitation. It's recorded by our grade 9 student, Hafiz Abdur Rafi Shaikh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام، إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. صدق الله العظيم. Quran chapter 4 verse 1. O mankind, be careful of your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single soul. From it created its mate, and from them both spread abroad a multitude of men and women. Be careful of your duty toward Allah, in whose name you claim your rights of one another, and towards the wombs. Beware. Indeed, Allah has been a watcher over you. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنك لست بخير من أحمر ولا أسود إلا أن تفضله بتقوى. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has said, all mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab have any superiority over an Arab. A white has no superiority over a black, nor does a black have any superiority over a white, except by piety and good action.
That was beautiful. Amin. And now we're going to continue with our program, and we're going to have the Boy and Girl Scouts Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very, very adorable. We'd like to thank Seema Rahman for her years of service in working with the Scouts and the Boy Scouts Zai Shahid, Ayan Mirza, and their Scout leaders Fasil Mirza and Nabil Shahid, and our Girl Scouts Inaya Ahmad and Nora Ibrahim. And then we have the cadet leader Raya Rainier, Elbas, and the junior leader Samra Ahmad. We thank you very much. And now at this time, we would like to introduce to you our president of the ISCLI, Islamic Institute of Long Island, Mr. Amin Kawaja, who will bring us opening remarks via video recording.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with all of you. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome. My name is Amin Kawaja. On behalf of the Executive Committee, the Board of Trustees, and our entire diverse and vibrant community here at the Islamic Center of Long Island, it is an honor to have all of you join us for our 19th annual Black History Month celebration. The theme of this afternoon's program, Celebrating Leadership, is a theme that we are so humbled but proud of to recognize. Leadership is competence, being effective and reliable, having courage and protruding confidence in the face of adversity, having vision of what is ahead of you through inspiration, and most importantly, leadership is integrity and trust, the ability to be straightforward and earn respect. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam witnessed those traits in Bilal ibn Rabah. May God be pleased with him. Bilal was a loyal companion of the Prophet and one of the earliest believers in Islam. At a time of hardship and adversity, Bilal was chosen to be the first muazzin, the caller of prayer, not because he was black, but because his leadership and character qualities were exemplary. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, selection of Bilal was one of the most momentous historical events of Islam's foundational respect for equality, regardless of heritage and or skin color. In Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's last farewell sermon, he was quoted, "All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab has superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over a black, nor a black has any superiority over a white, except by piety and good deeds." We congratulate and thank our guests for joining us to celebrate their achievements and leadership in a world that is always striving for equality. On behalf of all of us here at the Islamic Center of Long Island, our sincerest gratitude to our respected guests and to Sister Zainab Bey, her committee, and our IT team for organizing this wonderful Black History Month celebration. Thank you for joining us. Please enjoy the program.
Brother Amin, for those wise and thoughtful words and for a wonderful beginning to our opening. Now, at this time, it is an honor for me to introduce our next guest, who's going to bring remarks to us. He's a longtime friend of ICLI. He's a wonderful person as well as a wonderful mayor. And it is time for us to bring on our mayor, Peter Cavallaro. And at this time, he is a little late, so he'll come on a little later. So we are going to move forward and with our program. So as I said to you, I am Zainab Bey, and I've been with you for a while now. And it's always such an honor and a privilege for me to be at the Black History program. This is ICLI's 19th year holding these events. And so we are just so excited and we're just so happy that you're here. And so to everyone, I say peace and greetings. Thank you again for joining us. The focus of this year's event is African American leadership. I want to ask you a question before we even begin and going any deeper into our program. Have you ever walked down the street or just sat still outside and noticed that peeking its way through the concrete pavement was a small, colorful flower? When I saw this, I recall wondering, how did such a delicate and beautiful flower find a way to survive the elements of being stepped on in the scorching heat, the seemingly deprivation of care? However, it was through patience, perseverance, and drive that that little flower used the strength of its roots to push its way up through the cold concrete, defying the odds so that it could live and its beauty would come through so that those who are willing could enjoy. So, why do we celebrate African American leadership? Because the leaders were and are strong, committed, determined, and motivated to succeed in helping others rather just helping themselves. When Harriet Tubman freed herself from slavery, she could have stayed in a place of safety. Instead, like the flower, she found the courage and she pushed herself until she had taken to freedom over 300 slaves. African American leaders have been steadfast, holding on tight to their dreams and to their faith. And it's because of their leadership that so many others are the beneficiaries in the areas of health, education, law, and civil rights. So, who are some of these leaders? Well, we have Thurgood Marshall, the first African American Supreme Court justice who argued successfully before the Supreme Court that racial segregation laws violated the United States Constitution. He argued 32 cases before the court, winning 29 of them. We acknowledge Charles Hamilton Houston, the first African American to become editor of the Law Review. He trained civil rights attorneys, and under his tutelage, he played a major role in nearly all of the civil rights cases before the Supreme Court in the 1940s and 50s. And then we have Dr. Marion Mcleod Bethune. She was a long-time passionate educator working as a teacher before she founded Bethune-Cookman College, which sets the standards for today's Black colleges. She was become one of the highest ranking African American women in government under President Roosevelt. And she became one of the earliest Black female activists that helped lay the foundation to modern civil rights movement. Now that's leadership. The list is considerable when we speak of African American leaders who can be found in every major category of American life. This afternoon, we have an awesome panel of guest speakers who are leaders within our very own community. Dr. Tahira Dupree Chase, Judge Brianna Vaughan, and Dr. Linda Humes. They are those colorful little flowers that push their way through in education, in law, and the arts. And today, they are making a tremendous difference. We are happy that you are celebrating the achievements with us of African Americans. And throughout the event, we want you to stay engaged with us. So please, as much as you can, please send us a message in the chat. Feel free. And so at this time, we'd like to recognize the students who participated in the Black History Month essay contest.
Muhammad Ali was a great statesman, great boxer, and the greatest sportsman of the 20th century. He didn't fear anything but Allah. He could take his opponent down with just one hit. The reason why I chose to write an essay about Muhammad Ali is because he was brave and he had a strong faith in Islam. Muhammad Ali once said, "Everything I do now, I do to please Allah. Being a true Muslim is the most important thing in the world to me. It means more to me than being Black or being American." Thank you.
Jackie Robinson, changing the world one hit at a time. Having ended 60 years of racial segregation in Major League Baseball, Jackie Robinson is one of the most famous athletes in history. Robinson faced racial taunts from fans, opponents, and even some teammates, but he fought for equality simply by stepping onto the field every single day. Robinson became a leading voice in the civil rights movement in 1956, creating an even greater impact on humanity. Jackie Robinson inspires me to take that first risky step. As a young hijabi girl, I might be different in some ways, but like Robinson, I don't want it to stop me from wanting to take that step. One of my favorite quotes happens to be by Jackie Robinson. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. When I read this, I am reminded that we are put onto this earth with a purpose to help humanity. Thank you.
Imagine being an Olympian, an author, the first Muslim to win a gold medal in the Olympic Games in fencing, and creating the first sports hijab. She is Iftihaj Muhammad, the first African-American Muslim to do that. Most people know her for her fencing, but she has accomplished many amazing things. After she graduated from college in 2007, she became involved in standing up for justice, supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, and refugees. She followed her passion in fashion and made a sports hijab too, and she defended the local Muslim communities as well. She turned into an outstanding role model to young American Muslim women and others. Iftihaj Muhammad is an amazing person and a great role model. She was the first Muslim woman to wear a hijab in sports, and it takes strength to do that, and that's what inspires me about her. Iftihaj teaches us all a lesson. No matter what race we are, no matter how many times you fall down, if you try hard, you can achieve anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, if you're at home or wherever you are, give a nice silent shout out and a nice congratulations to our amazing students. You know, our students, they're just wonderful, and so are their teachers at the weekend school, that we had to extend the essay contest because so many students wanted to be involved. And that's a testament to who they are, to their families, and to the whole school community. And just congratulations to ICLI and to the students. Those were great. And for the record, we want you to know that we did not forget you, that even though this is virtual, your gift cards are waiting for you and your beautiful certificates. And any student who participated, whether they were selected or not, they're going to receive a beautiful certificate from us. So at this time, we're going to play a slideshow that we'd like to acknowledge some pretty popular, famous, and very grounded African American leaders.
I don't see any presenter backstage. Only Dr. Tahira is there. So can you? We have no. No, we are on mute.
Okay.
They can-
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have to acknowledge as much as we can our leaders, our recognition of them, the remembrance of them. It gives them strength and it gives power to the entire community. And so we call them out. So even if those are the ones who are no longer with us, we acknowledge that we appreciate what they did for us while they were alive. And so without further ado, we're going to move forward. And I want to say that we have really a great panel today. And our first speaker, we're going to hear from Dr. Tahira A. Dupree. She is our first guest speaker, and she is just absolutely an awesome superintendent of the Westbury Union Free School District. But before she speaks, I'd like for you to take a moment and tell you something about her. Dr. Tahira Dupree Chase is currently the superintendent of schools, Westbury Union Free School District, since July 2021. Dr. Chase has an outstanding record of achievement. According to the Westbury School District, Dr. Chase's experience as both a classroom teacher and an administrator, her introduction of innovative, nationally recognized programs to prepare students to be successful in a global economy, and her record of consistently improving student achievement made her the right person to lead the Westbury School District. Dr. Chase, she served 8 years in the Greenburgh Central School District in Westchester County, where she served as an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction for 2 years before she was appointed superintendent of schools in 2013. Dr. Chase's record of achievement and innovation has earned recognition from educational and governmental leaders from around the state. She has been recognized nationally for her accomplishments as a superintendent. In 2016, she was named one of the top 25 superintendents to watch by the National School Public Relations Association. In 2020, she was cited by another organization as one of the top 10 female superintendents in the country. It is our privilege and our honor to welcome Dr. Chase to the stage.
Thank you. Wow, thank you for that awesome introduction. I just want to bring greetings to my Muslim brothers and sisters. I send you Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you. I'd like to thank Zainab Bey and her committee for just identifying me as one of your speakers for this 19th annual Black History Month celebration. It is truly an honor and a blessing to be here with you all. I also would like to acknowledge President Amin Quadra of the Long Island Islamic Center. I appreciate your support and welcoming me into Westbury School District. I recognize that some of my school board members are watching and participating in today's Black History Month celebration. So I welcome you and I thank you for your continuous support. You know, when others discovered that I would be one of the guest speakers for today's event, a few people boldly asked, why are you speaking at a Black History Month celebration that takes place in March? Isn't that a bit odd? But my response was, it's actually perfect. This means that the Islamic Center of Long Island recognizes that Black history starts January 1st and ends December 31st each year. We just give special recognition of Black history in February. So kudos to the Islamic Center of Long Island for your bold vision. And you're right, Black History is every single day. It is American history. As indicated in the introduction, my name is Tahira Dupree Chase, and I am the proud superintendent of the Westbury Union Free School District. When I set my path almost 30 years ago to become an educator, I committed my efforts to work in marginalized communities and communities of color because I knew very early in my career that it was my divine assignment to pour into children of color what was poured into me. I knew very early in my career that children of color, particularly Black and brown students, needed to see this lady from the Bronx with this Arabic name, Tahira Akila, which means clean and pure and noble, first generation college graduate who had no idea what she was doing while filling out college applications in high school, and whose guidance counselor told her that college is not an option. I needed students of color to see a person like myself soar to heights unimaginable when the odds were stacked against me. I never for 1 minute envisioned leading a school district, though. I had at the very start of my career and later in life, individuals who saw leadership in me well before I saw it in myself. These people mentored me, they shaped me, they uplifted me. One person who is near and dear to my heart stands out on this occasion of celebrating African American leadership. I remember meeting a tall, statuesque gentleman by the name of Wallace Dunn about 20 years ago. Some of you may know his name because he served as an educational leader on Long Island a long time ago. He served in several districts on Long Island at that. Mr. Dunn oftentimes told me, Tahira, one day you're going to be a superintendent. I laughed as I had no desire and I was very happy teaching. Mind you, I was in my 20s and I thought I knew everything in my 20s. Mind you, well, good old Wallace Dunn left New York shortly after our first encounter, and he moved his family to Michigan to take on a superintendent position. We remained in touch while he and his family resided in Michigan. But several years later, I remember receiving a phone call in the middle of the summer, and it was Wallace Dunn. Mr. Dunn called to inform me that he and his family had returned to New York and that he was taking on a position, I apologize, at a school district in Westchester County. He wondered if I would join him at the central office. My first instinct was absolutely not. I enjoyed my summers off, being in the classroom with my students, and I also enjoyed the light duties of my administrative assignment as a department chairperson. Not to mention, I was well tenured. I was not taking that crazy risk. But that Mr. Dunn was so persistent. He called me back several times with the same offer, and guess what? I had the same response: no. After a few very persistent attempts, I decided to explore Mr. Dunn's offer, and the rest is history, ladies and gentlemen. Along the way, as my career took off like a rocket ship, I met some amazing leaders of color who inspired me, believed in me, nurtured me, uplifted me, and helped me to find the leader within myself. I also had plenty of non-African American leaders who did the same for me. And to this day, I honor each and every one of them, every opportunity I get. It was my mentors who continued to instill in me that as I continue to climb in my career, it is my moral duty to reach down with both hands and pull others along the way, especially those who traditionally may not get the opportunity to lead. Ladies and gentlemen, the world lost Mr. Dunn last year. His wife graciously allowed me to FaceTime him as he lied on his dying bed. I was honored and humbled to have had the opportunity to simply say, thank you for believing in me. He passed several hours later. Mr. Dunn and I had become so close over the years that his wife included me as family in his obituary. Had it not been for Mr. Wallace T. Dunn, had it not been for Mr. Wallace T. Dunn to understand me, to notice me, to nurture me, I might not be the superintendent of Westbury Union Free School District today. You see, having a mentor to model after is essential for students of color and leaders of color. Mr. Dunn was that for me. This is why I'm committed to the various service organizations which I belong, organizations that were founded to provide service and uplift communities in need. While it is great that I am an African American woman and a young woman at that in educational leadership position, I recognize that I am the minority when I attend national forums and conferences. I am the minority when I attend regional educational leadership conferences and events. I am the minority when I attend local educational leadership events. We've got work to do. Nationally, public education serves well over 50% of the students. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Nationally, public education serves well over 50% of students who are considered to be students of color. Yet, the statistics of leaders of color do not reflect the student population. Leaders of color represent only 24% of the leadership pool. The disparity is especially noticeable when taking into account female leaders of color. We're at 8% of the leadership pool. Again, we have work to do. I'm going to ask you all to indulge me for a few seconds. I'm going to give you a little task. We don't have to put anything in the chat. We don't have to answer out loud. I just would like for you to think for a few moments. Think about your first encounter with a teacher of color. Now think about the first time you've encountered a school leader of color. I would venture to say, for some of you, you may have encountered a teacher of color way before you've encountered a school leader of color. You see, once again, leaders of color represent only 24% of the nation's leadership pool. Now think about the females leader of color whom you may have encountered while you were in school. According to a study conducted by Johns Hopkins, the results indicate that students of color should see representation across a broad spectrum of education. Students of color should know there are educators who look like them actively advocating on their behalf, and those who do not look like them and have resources to help them are working diligently on their behalf. According to NPR, having just one Black teacher in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade reduced low-income boys' probability of dropping out of high school by 39%. Now wait, the study goes on to show by high school, African American students, both boys and girls, who have one African American teacher had a much stronger expectation of going to college. So it's pretty obvious that when that person told me in high school that college was not an option, it was not, unfortunately, a person who looked like me. But let me be clear about this. I'm not implying by no means that a non-African American person cannot lead students of color. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that there are tremendous benefits to students of all races and all ethnicities to interface with a teacher and a leader of color during his or her K-12 experience. This study by far makes the case for intentional hiring of more teachers of color, as well as more concentrated training on implicit bias and culturally responsive teaching in education today. Now more than any other time do we need to emphasize on training on implicit biases and culturally responsive teaching. In 2020, Brookins issued a 3-part report titled Black Leaders Dissatisfied with the K-12 Education System, Ready to Engage in Reform, states there must be a greater emphasis on cultural competency when it comes to educating African American children. What struck me about this report, and I looked at this report over and over and over because it really has informed some of the work that I plan to do at the Westbury Union Free School District. But what struck me about this report was that one respondent in the report asked the question, how can you teach Black students well if you don't know about these students? That very notion alone, that notion begs the question, what else must be done at the K-12 level to improve outcomes for African American students? For one, there is a greater need to provide more education and more professional development for both teachers and school leaders on pedagogies that can be used effectively, particularly with African American students. For far too long, we hear conversations and deficit-based statistics about Black children. There are 101 reasons why those conversations take place. But right now, at this very moment, we have the greatest opportunity to change the narrative. At a time when some are attempting to erase the rich African American history, or deeming it as a distraction, or claiming to burn books that entail rich African American history, or call it inappropriate, we need advocates to denounce such foolery and ensure that we teach and ensure that as we teach American history, we do not exclude the impact African Americans have made to society. Having an understanding of the rich history will inspire, uplift, and empower African American students to see themselves in those who came before them. Students need to know that when they open their refrigerator at home, that Frederick McKinley Jones, a Black man, invented automatic refrigerated air cooling units for trucks, trains, ships, and planes, which helped the preservation of food. This invention led to what we know today as the refrigerator. Students need to know that when they open a bag of potato chips, that George Crumb, a Black man and a chef, created the potato chip in the summer of 1853. As a restaurateur and as a chef, he accidentally cut up potatoes and fried them and made them too thick for patrons. And some of the white patrons complained about the potatoes being too thick, and he cut them thinly and fried them, and there came the potato chip. Students need to know that before social media moguls who proclaim to be self-made millionaires, there was Madam C.J. Walker. She was the first African-American woman to become a self-made millionaire after creating a line of hair care products geared toward African-American hair. Students need to know that Marie Van Brittan Brown, an African-American woman who patented the very first home security system right here in Queens, a stone throw away from Westbury. Her design contained a camera, a two-way microphone, peepholes, and monitors, all serving as the foundation for today's modern systems. A woman of color created this. Students need to know that Shirley Jackson, the first African-American woman to earn a doctorate at MIT, is responsible for telecommunications research that led to the invention of products such as the touch-tone phone, the portable fax, fiber optic cables, and caller ID. We are all grateful for caller ID. You know you don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the number. Thank you, Dr. Shirley Jackson. Students need to know that Mark Dean, who earned his doctorate at Stanford University, invented IBM's original personal computer and PC color monitor, literally changing how we all interact with the internet, making it possible for us to meet virtually in this space to celebrate African American history. Oh, and the technology that enables printers, keyboard, and the mice to communicate with the computer, that was Mark Dean too, by the way. Students need to know that Lisa Geldlopter, an African-American woman who created Shockwave as a software engineer, the technology that helped to develop web animations. Yep, think of the emoji and the GIFs that we all know and love. I oftentimes send them out to my school board members and they send them to me. It's our animation, right? We have Lisa Geldlopter to thank for that. Oh, and she also helped to launch Hulu too, which is a live streaming platform. You see, our students have the potential to be anything they wish to be. You heard those students boldly, confidently read their essays today. Their possibilities are endless. I was so proud to hear those students speak. With mentoring, with guidance, and having people in their life to advocate for whatever is in their best interest to soar to great heights, I believe the future is bright. After all, those very ingredients certainly helped me and shaped me into the leader I am today. And I thank Mr. Wallace Dunn for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my greatest honor to spend a few minutes with you this afternoon. And again, I thank Zainab Bey and her committee for selecting me to be one of your guest speakers. I hope I've inspired you to consider mentoring a student of color or stand shoulder to shoulder with African American school leaders such as myself who are fighting the daily fight to drown out the noise of distractors and do what we know is best for the next generation of Black and brown leaders, entrepreneurs, inventors, scientists, educators, politicians. Thank you for your time, and I thank you for your attention.
To Chase. Wow, that was powerful. We absolutely learned so much. Some things we know, but we don't bring them into our soul. I don't think I'm ever going to eat a potato chip again and think the same way about it. And so many things, and the chats and that we're having is coming back. All of the remarks are just so positive. And the Westbury School District, they are blessed to have you. And we pray for you, and we pray for the entire school district, and you have such support. And thank you so much for being here with us today.
My
Okay.
greatest honor. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank
and I
you.
thank those who made comments in the chat. I didn't get to see them, but I appreciate them.
Yeah, I'll send them to you. I'll send you some messages. Yes. Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move on. And so if you enjoyed that, please let us know. And our leaders, they also, sometimes it's a little lonely. And so if you want to send her messages, sometimes just send her when they have special events, be there and just let her know that you're supporting her. Thank you so much. And so now our next presentation is going to be spoken word presentation. And that's going to be about by our very own Linda Humes. Dr. Linda H. Humes, she is founder of Yafa Cultural Arts. Yafa Cultural Arts is a not-for-profit arts and education organization based in New York City. Dr. Linda Humes is a professional storyteller and folklorist who performs and conducts workshops on Afrocentric themes both nationally and internationally. She is a consultant and the mistress of ceremonies for the American Museum of Natural History's annual Kwanzaa celebration. The museum's event is the largest Kwanzaa celebration in the United States. Dr. Humes is also an assistant professor in Africana Studies Department at John Jay College in New York City. And at this time, we would like to welcome Dr. Linda Humes to the stage. She's on mute. On mute. Okay, while the technicians help Dr. Linda Humes out there, she's on mute.
No more.
Okay, thank you.
Sister Zanab, I just want to thank you so much for the invitation to participate in this wonderful program once and again, and also to the Islamic Center of Long Island for being able to have the vision, first of all, to recognize Black History Month. But as our speaker said just a few minutes ago, Black History Month is 365 days a year, and Black history is American history, and it is world history. So I am excited to share with you all. And the first thing that I want to do is for us to just take 1 second, wherever you are, and give homage to the ancestors, because it is on their shoulders that we stand. And there is a saying that we are the prayers of our ancestors. We are the ones that they prayed for, that they sacrificed for. And here we are. And now we have a responsibility to them, to ourselves, and for the children that are not yet born to be the servant leaders that this time calls for. So let's just give a second to give homage to our ancestors. All right. So what I'd like to do is to start off with a pledge rap. Abiodun Oyewole is one of the founders of the Last Poets. I know some of you are familiar with the Last Poets. They are like the great-grandfathers of rap. And every leader knows that they must be able to self-motivate. So this rap is for all of us. And no matter where you are, I want you to just put your hands together and give me a good beat. And I am going to do this pledge rap because we need motivation and we need to know how to big up ourselves. I want to be what I can be, to be proud, healthy, and free. I want to say what I know to help my brothers and sisters grow. I want to feel good about me and blame no one for my misery, because I'll be strong, I'll turn it around. I want to go up, I'm not going down. I want to do what I can do to make all my dreams come true. Remember the past, the good and bad, how I made it art, even when it was sad. I want to share whatever my gifts, and when you're feeling low, I'll give you a lift. I want to live without fear and know I'm blessed for being here, and know I'm blessed for being here, and know I'm blessed. Let's start off on the continent of Africa. Let's start in Ghana, West Africa. Now, if we were in Ghana, West Africa, and we were having storytelling time, or if we were just having a great celebration that the village all came together, which we are, we're on our virtual village, the storyteller might say, Ago! Which means, are you listening? Are you ready? And everyone who'd gathered around would answer back, Amen, which means we're listening. Say what you have to say. So this is an Anansi story. I love Anansi stories because we can learn so many lessons from Anansi. This particular story has to do with Anansi and his wife Asu and their children. So, many of you who read Anansi stories know that Anansi and his wife Asu had 6 sons. But when they first started their family, the very first son, he was getting ready to be born. And Anansi and Asu were thinking about what name they would give this new baby, their firstborn. But when he came in the world, he said, I come with my own name. My name is Sea Trouble. And after a couple of years, a second son was born. And he too came out and said, I come with my own name. My name is Road Builder. And a few years after that, they had another son, and then another, and then another, and then a last son. And each time when the sons were born, they all came in and said, I come with my own name. Game Skinner, Stone Thrower, Cushion, River Drinker. They were a happy family. And Anansi would go into the forest from time to time. Of course, he would go and hunt and he would come back. Sometimes he had things that he had to do. He would visit other villages, but he never would be gone for more than a few days. This one particular day, he set out and he had some things that he wanted to take care of in the forest. And as he was walking, he saw on the ground this big white ball. It was absolutely beautiful. It sparkled. He had never seen anything like it before. He picked it up and he was going to take it home. He was so enchanted with this ball that as he walked, he didn't see where he was going and he fell right into the river. At that very moment, this big fish came by, opened its mouth, and swallowed Anansi. There he was in the bottom of this fish's stomach with this big white ball. He promised himself right then that he would give this ball to whoever rescued him. Back at home, a few days went by, and then a whole week, and his family became very concerned. His eldest son stood up and looked out into the distance as if he was in a visionary state and said, I see trouble. I see where our father is. And all the sons, they gathered their machetes and they went into the forest. And when they came to the beginning of the forest, there were so many shrubs and forests. And that's when Road Builder made a road straight to the river. They arrived at the river, and then that thirsty brother, river drinker, drank up all of the water in the river, and there at the bottom they saw this big fish. They knew that their father was there. That's when Game Skinner took the machete and cut that fish open, and there was their father, Anansi, with the white ball. But before he could get out of the fish, this bird appeared from nowhere, came down, grabbed hold of Anansi, and took him up in the sky. Anansi just continued to grab hold of that white ball, and the bird kept flying and flying. But that's when the stone thrower brother took his stone and threw it up in the air. Oh, it went up, and hit the bird right in the head. And then Anansi started falling down from the sky. He's holding on to the ball, and then cushion. He kept following and looking to see where Anansi would fall. He slid right in like he was sliding into home plate, and Anansi fell right on his sun cushion. He gathered himself, he dusted himself off. His sons hugged him. They were so happy that he was okay and he was fine. And then Anansi looked at each one of his sons. He could not decide which son deserved this beautiful white ball the most. He looked up to Naomi, the sky god, and offered it to Naomi as a gift. And that night they went home, and Asu made them a big feast, and they sat outside and they ate and they drank and they laughed, and they looked up in the sky and they saw that beautiful white ball glistening amongst the stars. And tonight, everyone, you, and you, when the dusk comes and the night falls, if you're fortunate, you can look up in the sky and you too can see that white glistening ball high in the sky. What we can learn from this story is that we all have our part to play. Umoja, unity. And as leaders, as servant leaders, we must learn to work together, not with ego, but with humility and purpose. Fanny Lou Hamer was one of those servant leaders. Fannie Lou Hamer was a grassroots civil rights activist during the civil rights movement. She was known to say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I ain't gonna let no one turn me around. She said, folks try to tell me don't talk politics, but the air we breathe is politically polluted air. I'm not fighting for civil rights. I'm fighting for human rights. She was known to give people homes and food no matter what their color. Fannie Lou Hamer was a servant leader and a true shero. If we look at what's going on in the world today, we must understand that each one of us has a place and a part to play. We're looking at what's going on in the Ukraine, but there's wars and rumors of wars all over the world right now. Most of us don't know about what's going on with the Uyghur Muslims in northwestern region of Xinjiang, China. It's a genocide. Most people don't know about the Rohingya Muslims in Rakhine, Myanmar right now, a genocide. Most people don't know about the villages that are being rampaged in parts of Nigeria, in parts of the Congo right now. Many of us don't even realize that there was an African World War from 1990, I'm going to get it right, 1998 to 2003, that included 9 African nations, and more than 3.8 million people lost their lives. We do have work to do. We do have work to do as the body of humanity. So this last story that I want to share with you, I hope that everyone on this line listens and takes heed. There was an old blind woman that lived in a rural community. She was known to sit on her porch and rock, and everyone in her town knew that she was very, very wise. But there were these 2 young boys. They didn't think she was wise at all. They decided amongst themselves that they would capture a bird. They would go to the porch of the old blind woman, and they would ask her whether this thing that they held in their hand was dead or alive. If the old woman said it was alive, then they would kill it. If she said it was dead, then they would let the bird fly free. They came to the porch of the old blind woman, and they said, "Old woman, this thing that we hold in our hand, can you tell us whether it is dead or alive?" And the old blind woman thought for a moment. And then she said, "This thing that you hold in your hand, I cannot tell you whether it is dead or whether it is alive. But this I can tell you. It is in your hands. My brothers and my sisters, our youth, the future is in your hands. What are you going to do?" Asante sana.
Simply awesome. Thank you, Dr. Linda Humes. What a wonderful message, both stories, beautiful messages. We appreciate you so much. We have been grateful by your presence today. As always, I have to say I have known Dr. Linda Humes. I think it's almost 30 years now.
When we're
And
merely children.
yes, exactly. And you never fail to leave positive messages. And may you be blessed always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now at this time, we are going to move to our next presenter. And it is with respect and admiration that I introduce our next speaker, the Honorable Brianna A. Vaughan. But before she comes to the stage, let me just share a little bit about Justice Vaughan. The Honorable Brianna A. Vaughan brings both criminal law knowledge and experience to her position as the village justice as a former prosecutor. Justice Vaughan is a lifelong resident of Hempstead. Justice Vaughan graduated from Hempstead High School at the top of her class in 2010. She attended the University of Albany, SUNY, where she graduated with honors with a bachelor's in both English and political science. After graduating from the University at Albany, Justice Vaughan attended Albany Law School, where she focused on criminal law, and she became a pro bono scholar, completing over 300 hours of pro bono legal work. Kudos to you. Upon graduating from law school in 2017, Justice Vaughan returned home to Hempstead and began her career as an assistant district attorney with the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. Justice Vaughan has litigated multiple cases to deposition and verdict. Justice Vaughan is currently a business owner, and she is president of the Lions Club, Hempstead, New York. And without further ado, we welcome Justice Brianna A. Vaughan to the stage.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for your warm introduction. Thank you for having me today. Thank you to the Islamic Center of Long Island. I'm so honored to be present today and with you all virtually. So a little bit about myself. My name is Brianna Vaughan, as you all learned. I am the village justice of the incorporated village of Hempstead, and I have the distinct honor of being one of the youngest village justices, the youngest elected judges in New York State, as well as the youngest judge to ever hold this position in Hempstead. So the weight is heavy. I'm so honored to be here today to speak about the legacy of, African Americans that have preceded me. I stand on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm, who said that if they don't offer you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair. And she also was a very big advocate, saying that no one ever made progress by standing on the sidelines and complaining. So I've always taken up the torch, and I know that as much as the community has believed in me, it is my obligation to pull each person up that I can and bring them along to be better than me when the opportunity arises. So a little bit about me. I am a Hempstead native, born and bred. I went through the Hempstead Public School District. I did find that, having African American teachers did personally impact my life because they served as secondary parents sometimes. And they never hesitated to put me in my place, but they also showed me that higher education was attainable and that I could progress. And they believed in me and they spoke life into me and they understood, my demographic. They understood where I was coming from or things that I was going through at home. And then upon graduation, I attended SUNY Albany, where I think I did everything under the sun. I became a senator. I became a justice in the student court. I was a residential assistant. And I just wanted to, make the most of my college experience and learn as much as I can because I knew that the ultimate goal was law school. Upon going to law school, I struggled. I'm not even gonna lie. I struggled. And there were only 6 African Americans in my law class of 121 students. So we were a very close-knit bunch, but we all tended to struggle at some time because it was a different learning environment. It was a culture shock and it was hard. And, despite the fact that I struggled through law school, I excelled eventually. And then I was able to graduate. And if you know anything about studying for the bar, you know that that is a tedious task that most people become very unpleasant during. And I did that. I took the bar and I failed. And I almost gave up on my dreams. But I looked at all of the people who came before me and that I admired, people like Michelle Obama, who also failed the bar on her first try. So with the guidance of my parents, with prayer, with the faith of the community, after talking to some of my old professors and teachers, I set for the bar. I took it again. And again, I failed. So at that point, I really had to reevaluate myself. I had to look into myself and see if this was really what I wanted to do. But this was a career path that I think was chosen for me. God put that in my heart at 5 years old, and I decided that that was the path I was always going to take. So although I almost quit, I persevered. And I took it a third time. I finally passed. So upon passing, I was able to return to my job at the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. I regained all of my cases, and I became a senior assistant district attorney at the district court located in Hempstead. I tried multiple cases to verdict, and I saw in multiple instances how important it is to have somebody in the legal field as representation that can understand the plight of what the defendant is going to. More often than not, I saw people from my community. More often than not, I saw people who needed advocating for, who needed help. And the criminal justice system didn't always provide them with the just and apt help that they needed. So after I left the DA's office, I ran for village judge. And surprisingly, I won because I was the baby. I was the front runner. I never thought that at 28 I would be an elected official to the bench, and it happened. And I give all the glory to God. I give all the glory to those who believed in me. I give all the glory to people who lifted me up. And now, since I'm coming up on my year on the bench, and I see how much the judicial system needs to be amended and needs to be changed, I have dedicated myself to helping people. I've dedicated myself to always being fair and impartial. I've dedicated myself to always making sure I triple check my decision before I render it, because I want to make sure that anything that I'm doing that can affect somebody's life is made with good conscience. And now I am the principal attorney of my own law firm as well. So I've started the law office of Brianna Avon at 29 years old. And I'm dedicated to, civil rights advocacy. I'm dedicated to criminal defense work to make sure that people that look like me, that are often burdened and treated unjustly in the criminal justice system, are given a fair shot, that they are zealously advocated and represented. And I'm going to make sure that I can do whatever I can to leave my mark on this earth and make sure that people know that they were loved and they were cared for. And I'm a big advocate for mental health. I'm a big advocate for self-care. I'm a big advocate for treatment as opposed to incarceration. And those are things that I value, I stand on. As the president of the Lions Club in Hempstead, we are always doing community service projects. I am actually tasked with rebuilding the entire club, and everything that we do is service-based. And I'm just so honored to be even considered a speaker or have the privilege to speak to you all today, following the two amazing speakers that I heard today. And I can't tell you how much African American history means. We are Black 365 days of the year. Black history is American history. It's never going to change. And until Black people and people of color are considered to be true and just citizens of this nation, the fight will never be over. So I know that it is my obligation and my duty and my task to take up arms in this fight. And I join anybody and everybody to galvanize with me in this fight. If you ever have questions, feel free to ask. If you or any of your children or students ever want to sit on the bench and see what it's like to advocate or to preside, please let me know. I have an open door policy, and I let people shadow me every day. And I know you all have been sitting here for quite some time, so I will not bore you and I will not keep you much longer. But I just want to say again, thank you so much. And I'm so humbled to be able to speak to you all today. If I leave you with no other words, just know that you should always persevere, always follow your dreams, never let anybody put their limitations on you. And no matter what your path is, just stay steadfast and constant and keep God in your forefront. Thank you again.
Thank you. Justice Brianna Vaughan, thank you so much. And it's funny when you said perseverance, I wrote that down. That stayed with me. And your story of determination. I think our youth, they need to hear that if you fall down, you get back up.
Yeah.
And it's like the little flower. You don't stop pushing through the concrete. Okay, all the best to you always. And hopefully we will see each other again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And so now at this time, there's a quote that says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and become more, you are a leader. I am so inspired by our guest today, and I thank every one of you as our audience, as our very special guests yourselves for being here again. And so at this time, we would like to call in a minute our next speaker, who is going to be Dr. Mufti Muhammad Vaughan. Dr. Mufti Vaughan was raised in New York City. He completed his initial education in high school in New York, and he pursued his education for 8 years in Islamic education studies. He accomplished a PhD in Islamic jurisprudence and law. He is also specialized in Islamic economics and finance. Currently, Dr. Vaughan is the executive director of the Islamic Center of Long Island, Westbury, New York, the spiritual advisor for Islamic affairs for Muslims on Long Island, and he's a consultant for the Islamic Center of South Shore Valley Stream, Long Island. Both of these at Masjid al-Baqi and Masjid Hamza. He is the co-founder and president of a non-for-profit organization for youth called Children of Adam. It is an honor for me and a privilege to be able to introduce him and to invite Dr. Vaughan to please come to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, and good afternoon, everyone. Sister Zainab, thank you so much for your kind introduction. I'm honored and I'm humbled to be present here, and thank you so much for your dedication, your work, the effort, and all the team behind the scene who have worked so hard that we are not able to see in the front, but they have done a lot of work. So thank you so much, the entire team, for putting this program together. Thank you so much for the amazing speakers, and really, I really am lost of words by the inspiration that I have received from 3 amazing individuals, leaders, inspirational, and people. And I'm going to definitely take these words with me and hold for a long time and be able to share with my congregation, and of course, especially with my children and my family. With regards to African American leadership, Sister Zainab and the rest, for many of us, we realize that for people, we only see the structure that is standing in front of us. We see the beauty of the place, we see the structure, we see the beautiful windows, the chandeliers, the carpets, the marble. But for many of us, we're not able to see the foundations upon which the entire structure is standing. And when I look at the comfort for an individual whose parents come from a South Asian country, right? A person who's also of a colored skin, for me to be able to stand tall and be able to have my voice heard, I can never forget the sacrifices of the African American leadership that has made the foundation in America for the people of color to stand upon. And I think that's what we really need to understand, that sometimes our leaders are not visible or they may not be seen, but it is that foundation upon which we all stand today that we must remember their sacrifices and the great work that they have done. I look at the final message of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the mercy of Allah and the Almighty be upon all the messengers. When we look at the last and the final message of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the messenger of Islam, it was the largest gathering of his entire life. It was the only Hajj or the pilgrimage that he performed. It was the largest amount of individuals that were collectively gathered in front of him. And he gave this message, and a message that was not only for the 124,000 people of that time, more than 1,400 years ago, but that message is for all of us till today. And he says that, and I quote the words of the Prophet more or less was that none of you have any superiority over anyone else based upon your color or your lineages or your background, but your honor is dependent upon your consciousness. And again, coming back to the point of African American leadership, it always inspired me to see individual, and for our amazing speaker who mentioned this so beautifully, that the entire year is a year of celebrating people, individuals with colors, not one day, not one time, but to understand that this is a part of our life daily, to respect one another, to honor one another, to accept one another, because that's the way we will only grow. And we shared this previously as well, that we are human beings as beings, but we have to become more humane and respectful to one another to truly become the true human beings that is desired from all of us. So with this, I want to conclude and remind myself and all of our guests who have joined us, and on behalf of the Islamic Center of Long Island, this is our 19th year in celebrating this. And Sister Zainab, your team, our wonderful chair, Brother Habib Ahmed, our president, Brother Amin, and the rest of the team who works day in and day out to make sure that we create this environment within the Islamic Center of Long Island, that each and every one of you is welcome, you're accepted, and this is the house of God, where the doors of the house of Allah and the Almighty are always open for you. And we hope and we ask the Almighty that He allows us to instill this within ourselves and the lives of our generation, work upon our children so that we accept one another's as brothers and sisters. And of course, never forget the sacrifices of our leaders, our past, predecessors who have worked so hard, who cannot be visible now anymore, but their sacrifices are not forgotten, upon which these foundations and these structures are built. With that, I'm going to send it back to our dear Sister Zainab. And thank you so much for having me to share some reflections amongst this extreme, prestigious host and group of individuals to speak. I truly feel humbled and honored, and thank you so much for the respect that you have given me to make me a part of this as well. Thank you, Sister Zainab, and the rest of the team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, at this time, on behalf of ICLI, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for choosing to spend your afternoon with us. I would like to send a special thanks to our wonderful, wonderful guests, to everyone who's here. And for those of you who had your children be a part of this, I want to thank the children for being here. And I have to give a special recognition to the awesome and dedicated Black History Month Celebration Planning Committee and to the tech team. They are just so dedicated, and they give so much of themselves in such a warm and patient way, and I just want to thank you for that. And they are consistent. 19 years, I saw it just now in the chat. 19 years is a long time for ICLI to celebrate Black History Month, and we hope that we have a wonderful celebration next year. And for that, we're going to close out with a very brief prayer. Have a great afternoon and a wonderful, wonderful rest of the year ahead. Thank you. Brother Mufti, thank you.
Sure. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the most generous. O dear Allah, the Almighty, we have gathered here today, even though virtually, but allow our hearts to be connected. Allow our hearts to be connected and united towards goodness. Allow us to become a source of goodness for one another. Protect us from all evils and wrongs. Strengthen our bonds and our connections. Allow us to become sincere in our efforts. Allow us to make our struggles and our efforts towards protecting and serving one another. Give us the strength to do what is correct and right. Always allow us to stand for what is correct and right. Allow us to have respect and honor and dignity for one another. Instill within us the courage and strength, and not only within us, but our families and our children. Unite our hearts together. Connect our hearts together. Strengthen our bonds for brothers and sisters. Send your mercy and your rahmah and your promises and your benefit upon all of us. For those who are struggling across the globe in difficult conditions, in war, in starvation, in fear, in hunger, in thirst, provide them with the good and ease in this world and the hereafter. Protect all of us to do what is correct and right. Strengthen our bonds and always allow us to stand for what is correct and right. Accept this mere humble effort and allow this to become a means of guidance and mercy for the entire humanity. Wa sallallahu ala nabi al-kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabi ummati ajma'in. Amin, amin, amin. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Thank you.